I'm Mary Rose, author of the Inquiring Minds Interviews on California Catholic Daily, talking with Father Joseph Illo, pastor of Star of the Sea Parish, about his March 5th blog, Laetare. You can find Father Illo's blogs at fatherilloblog.com. Father, why do we have, in the midst of a season that emphasizes sorrow, why do we have Laetare Sunday?
Everybody needs a little comic relief, you know. It's joy is the name of the game when it comes to being a Christian. So even when we are doing penance and are sober, we are also joyful. But it's a deeper joy, of course, than the world can afford. So I think Laetare Sunday is to remind us that we can never be without joy, even in the darkest parts of our lives. And of course, the antiphon that gives the Mass its name, Laetare Jerusalem, is from the prophet Isaiah in a difficult time where the Jewish people have always been under persecution, and yet they are the chosen people. And so they are called to joy even in the midst of their exile. And so we are exiled too, waiting, hoping to get to heaven someday, and we have to go through the difficulties of life as Mother Teresa said, with a big smile. Give what he takes and give what he takes and take what he gives with a big smile.
Okay, you also mentioned in your blog the idea that we are, well, the despair that comes from being aware through digital media of all the horrible things that are happening in the world. Is there a way to balance the fact that we should care about those things and we have some duty to oppose evil, balance that with being disconnected and trying to focus on the things that matter, the eternal things, instead of the day-to-day?
That's a very good question because the technology has changed the landscape so much. We have to be aware of the vice of being a busybody, as Paul puts it in the English translation anyway. He says some people are acting like busybodies, minding everybody else's own business. So just information for information's sake is not necessarily a good thing. And we have to be discreet in focusing on what God has put in front of us rather than minding other people's business. So practically speaking, we should limit our intake of definitely social media, but also the news. And even if you have only a few websites you look at for news, or maybe one newspaper or a few journals, I'm just speaking from my own personal experience, I limit my journal reading to 3 journals. One's a monthly. Actually, they're all monthly now. They went from weekly to monthly, which I think is healthy because you get perspective with a monthly journal that you don't get with a daily or a weekly publication. But I do get the daily news through 3 different websites. They're all Catholic. So 3 and 3, 3 digital, 3 print, 3 monthly and 3 daily. And maybe that's too many. I know I'm somewhat addicted to them anyway. I mean, I have to have, I don't have to, but I feel withdrawal symptoms if I don't get my morning, review my 3 websites for whatever happened the day before in the Catholic world, the world itself, I mean, and the Catholic perspective on that. There are times, yeah, so we have to also fast from that, I think. Uh, Maybe one day a week, just don't go on a total news fast. I haven't done that yet, but I think it would be healthy.
I guess I mean, even contemplative orders I know will have someone assigned to read the news and report the news to the other members of the community. And I guess I was just thinking about, would it be so bad if I just stopped reading all the news and, counted on if it being important enough, someone would tell me? But then I started thinking, okay, well, I have a duty to pray for these things if I know about them. And then more so, as since I'm not a contemplative, I have a duty to act. I'm supposed to live an active life to a certain extent where I can. So I started wondering about that. I mean, I understand completely the feeling that the news is depressing, and see the evidence, as you noted in your blog, that there's so much depression and suicide. So I was just trying to figure out how to balance that.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't really answer your question on the positive side, which is, well, uh, what is our duty to be aware of the signs of the times, as Vatican II put it? We do have a duty for that, and even contemplatives. I think the point you made is contemplatives have one person doing that instead of everybody, so they're shielding themselves in some way. But so they've found. I mean, every community, every person has to find the balance, the measure in which they ingest world news or local news. So try to find that for yourself. I think if by your fruits you will know them, if you are depressed because you're reading too much or the wrong things, be a, be aware, discern those spirits. Is this the spirit of the world that is causing me to be discouraged? Am I not praying because I'm reading too much news or too obsessed about it? Am I not doing works of charity? So if I think look at the discouragement factor there and try to discern which spirit is helping you to be a disciple of Christ and which is hampering you. That's general. I know it's not very practical, but I think everybody in our own specific states of life have to figure that out.
Okay. And then I guess this is only somewhat tangentially related, but even just thinking about that, the prayer versus the active versus the being aware. Do you think people have a duty to actively engage? I mean, for instance, you talked about going to pray outside the abortion clinic. Do you think people have a duty to actively engage, be active in some manner? And you just mentioned acts of charity, physically act, corporal works, I guess, corporal works of mercy, as opposed, so many people say that they will pray, which of course is the foundation, but don't act in any way to counter the evils of the world. How What level of duty do people have to act in some way? Or even last podcast we talked about, actually in almsgiving, actually interacting with the poor rather than simply giving money.
Hmm. It depends on your state of life, of course, and your profession, the gifts that you've been given. So a Catholic politician has a different level of activity than a school teacher, than a priest, than a stay-at-home mom. But everybody, or than a contemplative. But all of us, I think we're all lazy and afraid because of original sin. And so we have to push ourselves. For example, praying at the abortion clinic here in San Francisco, the big Planned Parenthood facility, about 10 minutes from my parish. The Archbishop Corleone was there about 2 weeks ago. And that's wonderful. There's there's so few people there that it's very important for the Archbishop to be there, for me to be there, and for other priests to be there. So I just wonder why so few people are pushing themselves to pray there on the sidewalk. Given a city of a Bay Area of 5 million, 6 million people, and there's 5 people there. 40 Days for Life, for example, which we coordinate from this parish, we can't even fill 8 hours a day. My last parish in the suburbs, we were 24/7 for 40 days. We had 5, 10, 20 people there at 3 in the morning with candles on the sidewalk. So I just know that people can do it. I've seen it happen. urban areas, more secular cultures, it's very hard. We used to get a lot of priests come out. I'm the only priest that I know of that prays at that abortion clinic, along with the archbishop from time to
Oh,
time. So that's just one thing, praying at the abortion clinic. But there's so many other things, according to our state in life, that we should be doing, we can be doing. So I think everybody has to make an examination of conscience and a resolution during Lent. I am going to do one act of charity, whether it's praying at the clinic and greeting those people, praying for them publicly, distributing food and clothing on the streets, teaching catechism, whatever it might be, sponsoring a bill in the California legislature. I'm going to work on one project that's active and public to witness to the gospel of Jesus Christ beyond prayer.